the difference between someone who just does fantastic and someone who just doesn't quite, just someone who falls up short.
Yeah, I think it also comes from, like, you know, the way you come up in the sport. Some of these guys, they come up and they're the best guy in their area for a long time, and you kind of get this attitude or this. You start developing this persona of, like, I don't have to do all that work because, like, I'm not even doing that much, and I'm still smashing everybody in here.
Well, that's where it's crazy about a guy like Jon Jones. He actually can do that.
Yeah, right?
He's one of the rare guys that actually can do that.
Man, I wonder how much money he's left on the table with all these problems, especially with the attention that Conor's brought to the sport.
Yeah.
And a guy like Jon Jones.
Yeah.
You know?
I know. As good as he is. Good as he is. And I feel like for the longest time, too, he's trying to push this goody two-shoes image. And everybody was like, well, that's not you. Like, this is fake. And then all of his problems sort of forced him to just be himself. And then people were like, we like you more now. Yeah. And then he winds up testing positive for something else, which I believe him, it was accidental. I believe that it was accidental in this case, because it doesn't make any sense any other way. Because if you look at how he tested positive and what he tested positive for, and how recently he tested negative before that, and how recently afterwards he tested negative, you're talking about something that was such a minuscule trace amount. There's no way you could consider taking something like that and having it have some sort of positive effect, performance enhancing effect.
Now, was that the substance? Is it oral? Can it be taken orally?
Yeah, it can be taken orally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've heard, and I don't know how true this is. I would expect it to be somewhat true, but I've heard, like, in boxing, you know, main eventers, they've had these issues where they would provide their own food because they don't trust the staff for somebody, you know, spiking their food with something. So
you
they
could
test.
definitely have that.
So I don't, I mean, that sounds far-fetched, but it also sounds to some degree reasonable.
His position was weakened by his testimony in the California State Athletic Commission hearing because, first of all, he said that Malky had forged his signature on one of the documents, on one of the things that he was supposed to have gone over, like what you can and can't. I don't know. I think it was a USADA paperwork, or maybe it was California State Athletic Commission paperwork. He apparently admitted that his manager forged a signature, and they asked him, have you ever considered getting a new manager? Yeah. And he joked around about, yeah, he has. He said, no, I'm just kidding. But that's not good. And then there was a bunch of stuff in, like, what he provided as a possible source of that stuff. You know, like, he didn't have a lot of the things that he provided as a source of this stuff in his list of stuff that he had taken. Yeah. You know? There's a lot going on there, man. But the real problem is, like, Jon at one point in time was being represented by Nike. I mean, he was representing Nike. He had a huge Nike contract.
Yeah. That's huge. I mean,
God damn, that was giant. Because that was pre-Reebok, too. Yeah. That was the pre-Reebok days where he would have got all the juice. He would have got it all. And, you know, the coulda, shoulda, woulda shit goes on forever.
And on top of that, the coulda, woulda, shoulda of that being pre-Reebok and it being Nike, with everything that's come to the sport since then, imagine if Jon, like, he could have gone a Jordan route in some sense, you know, where he's got, like, a whole line of Jon Jones MMA type shit that's Nike's behind. You know,
he could be the heavyweight champion right now. Who knows? I mean, who knows? Well, he could absolutely, he could be in a super fight with Stipe. Yeah, absolutely,
100%,
absolutely. That would be a huge fucking fight, man, for MMA. Jon coming up to heavyweight.
I mean, it's a huge fight with DC coming up to heavyweight. Yes, you know, and the only guy to ever best him is Jon.
Yeah, and not just best him, he KO'd him.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, he hit him with that left high kick that DC said, "You're not going to hit me with that left kick." Yeah, he literally said that because he was saying he exposes some tendencies. Like, oh, you mean the left kick? You're not going to hit me with that left high kick, and then boom, he lands the left high kick.
Is that like the Titanic?
A little bit.
Like, it only sank because they said it wouldn't?
Yeah, maybe. A little bit.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
We, a couple weeks ago, I saw you at the Comedy Store, and you asked me about your boy, Brendan.
Yeah.
And, like, you had asked me about,
let's explain the whole thing to people that don't know the story. Brendan said something where he was talking about UFC Tonight, right? It's UFC Tonight?
Yeah. Well, he was talking about
The Fox
panel.
The Fox panel, and he said something about, I get it, Fox, you're not racist. Like saying that you have a bunch of black people on it.
Yeah,
because they're
full
not
black
racist.
cast.
Yeah.
And because they're not racist. Myself, Tyron, and
Yeah.
Karen Bryant were the three that were on the desk that day.
But also a lot of times Rashad, a lot of times.
DC.
Yeah.
And so it was like, but are you checking off boxes? Because are these the best brains and the best speakers for the
Right.
job?
Right.
And it was like, and you know, some people see the point that he was trying to make, the point that he claims that he was trying to make. But the thing is, when you start in on this race thing, you're saying effectively that there's a person or a group of these people are only there because of the color of their skin, right? You could say all of that without the whole "I get it, you're not racist, are you checking off boxes or whatever," right? Because if that doesn't matter to the question or the point that you're trying to make, then why bring it up?
Right.
You know, that's.
I feel like I know Brendan very well. I love him. He's one of my best friends. He's definitely not a racist, but he definitely talks too much.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way, like he talks too much. I mean like he says he has too many podcasts and too many things, and you say things, and I'm 100% guilty of this. You say things, and you're like, why did I even say that? And then all of a sudden you're defending it, and then you're caught up in just like a wave of just trying to sort out what you're saying, without someone being there to say, well, look, here's the thing. Tyron Woodley, UFC welterweight world champion. Yves Edwards, arguably the best 155er in the world at one point in time, massive veteran of the sport. You can go down the list. Rashad Evans, former light heavyweight champion. I mean, you're talking about top flight champions, former champions, elite mixed martial artists. But you also have Bisping, you also have Paul Felder, you also have
Kenny.
Yeah, Kenny Florian. You know, you have they're just elite, top of the food chain fighters and analysts. I think it was a bad path to go down. I don't think it made sense. I think he thought it made sense in his head when he was saying it. I think maybe he was trying to be controversial. Maybe he just, I don't know. You know, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me either. But like my thing about it wasn't, okay, you're being racist, right? Like it's a thing when you bring race into the situation, right? But my thing wasn't you're racist because you say this. My thing was you're saying that I'm in this position because I'm not good enough.
Right.
You're saying that I'm only here because of affirmative action or whatever you want to call it. You know, there's not a quality to my work, and that's where I'm like, yeah, fuck that. That's not the case. I know that I'm good at. I know that I'm good at the sport. I understand the sport, and I'm good at explaining what I see.
Right. And who would, the other thing is like, who would replace them? Is there white people that are missing out?
Yeah.
On the gig?
Yeah.
Like who's
everybody went to an audition.
Yeah, who's not getting the job though? Is
Yeah.
there like someone who's like, wow, this guy really speaks really well, but they're holding him down because he's white? Has that even happened?
Yeah.
Some people that would probably like that to happen, but I don't think that's actually happened.
Yeah, I agree completely. But so we kind of went through that, you know.
Yeah.
He sent me a message, he apologized about that, and I was like, cool. Like my thing was not about the race thing. My thing was you said these things and you're either saying somebody or a group of people up there aren't qualified for the job.
You're insinuating that a group of people that you belong to
Right.
are not qualified to the job.
So that's where I was coming from with it.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was squash. But then he said some other stuff after that. And that's where I'm like, man.
What did he say afterwards?
He was, I forget the guy's name. Luke, sorry, I remember. Luke Thomas, right? He was on this guy Luke Thomas's show.
Uh-huh.
And he's saying stuff. He's specifically talking about me now. He's like, yeah, I talked to them. We're all friends. I talked to Eve. And he's like, well, see, this is something Eve sees in himself. And I'm just like, man, you're not.
Is that really what he said?
Yeah. Like he said, I feel like that's something Eve sees in himself. He was aggressive and this, that. You know, he said he was emotional and this and that. And I'm like, I never said to you I was emotional. none of these things. So like you're like, this bus is coming, you're waiting to throw me in front of it or some shit like that. And I'm like, yeah, nah, that's not cool, man. Like, we're not friends. We know each other. The extent of our friendship is like a UFC last summer. I saw Brendan across the aisle, and some guy rolled up on him and was talking to him for like 10 minutes. And I'm looking back and I could see Brendan's like,
trapped.
Fuck that. Cause I'm like, let me go try and help him out. So I go over there and I start talking to Brendan, and then the dude just hangs out. I talked to Brendan for about 5-10 minutes, and then the dude just hanging out behind us, and I'm just like, that's all I got, man. I'm going back to my seat. You know?
And the guy jumps
right back in. That's
Yeah.
the extent of it. I've seen him at different places beyond that. You know, Brian and I are cool, so I've seen him sometimes when I seen Brian. But like, we're not boys. We don't know each other like
Right.
that. So, and like, and you're not a psychologist, you're not a psychiatrist, so you're not qualified to be speaking on my mental state.
I didn't know that he said that. I feel like now that I'm remembering it, you might have brought that up at the Comedy Store the other night.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense. It doesn't make any. I'm Brendan's friend, and I can't defend him on that because it doesn't make any sense. It just didn't. It doesn't make any sense.